while we were waiting for everyone to join us. Oh, I see first ones already here. Hi, everyone. I started a bit earlier just to make sure that everyone is on board. So feel free to grab some water. You probably won't have much time to grab some coffee, but I believe you still can take a little bottle of water with you. I see more and more people are joining us. That's perfect. Those who just joined us, we will start very, very soon in about 20-30 seconds. Let me then first share my screen, some preparation work. Share, not this one, but this one. Let me know if you can see my screen and you can see the presentation. Cool. Yes, okay. All right, I think we can actually start from here. First of all, thank you very much, everyone who joined us already, and those who are joining us right now. We have a very interesting topic to discuss today, and I have very nice guests. I will introduce them very, very soon, and I will let them introduce themselves. So the topic for today's discussion is how to redesign your bookkeeping function to maximize efficiency. Let us start with introductions. My name is Alex Keselman. I am a solution engineer here at ApprovalMax, and today I'll be the host. And I also have two great guests with me here today. It's Nattika from Dext and Trent from Techweave. I'm handing it over to you guys to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your role in the business.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I am Nattika. I am the head of accounting practice at Dext here in APAC. And my role is pretty similar to Alex's in the way that I am a solutions expert with Dext, but also some background in being a financial controller and implementing this kind of approval setup as well. So I'm really interested to have a chat with you all and obviously interact, ask questions along the way, but I'll hand it over to Trent.
Trent, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for the invite, guys. Really excited to be on the webinar with you. So I'm Trent Todd. I work in a business called Techweave. I own a business called Techweave. We've got a couple other directors. And our real core focus is helping accountants and bookkeepers do bookkeeping better. I've had a bookkeeping practice. I've worked in commercial roles before, but now my real focus is focusing on that and helping accountants.
Awesome! It's great having you here, guys. And I'm so happy to see you so fresh and energetic. While for me it's 5 a.m. here on Monday, so don't worry. All right, so let's start with an agenda for today's discussion. Quite short agenda, however, we have lots of things to discuss here. We'll start with a short poll, just to understand a little bit about you guys, those who are listening, those who are on the webinar, to understand what are your challenges. Once we understand that, we can move to what makes up a bookkeeping division and what's Techweave approach to this accounts payable process. Then we'll learn from all three sides, from the Techweave, from Dext, and from ApprovalMax, the way we can all centralize it and how we can all process that. Then at the very end, we'll have Q&A section, though I would highly encourage you ask any questions along the way in the Q&A section of Zoom, so we won't miss anything. At the very end, we'll talk about all of your questions. Cool, so I think the goals are set. Now we can move on to the actual presentation. So let's start with the short poll, and let me just start running that. You should be able to see it on your screen, and you should be able to select out of the options here, just to understand a bit more about you guys and what some of the challenges that you're facing within your accounts payable process. That would be absolutely lovely if you could make up a vote. Thank you very much. I see that the first voter is already here. All right. Already a half. A few more, just like maybe another 6 will make a vote. And I will stop in 10 seconds. So whoever wants to vote, do it right now. All right, awesome. Thank you very much. And I'm ending the poll. I will share the results with you guys. So you should be able to see the results, right? And as you can see, well, the majority is spending too much time on admin and chasing approvers, and about 40% incorrect and incomplete coding, with 35% on missed or delayed payments. All right, so we can see where we are heading to, and I hope this information will give us some understanding where to follow this webinar today. Right, and I would like to start, and I would like actually to hand it over to Trent to give us some information on what makes up a bookkeeping division, how we can shrink this process, and what actually creates this bookkeeping process. Trent, over to you to talk about the bookkeeping division.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think this is probably more setting the scene. I think this presentation is very much focused on a bookkeeping division or an accounting firm doing bookkeeping. But the takings from it are not necessarily isolated to that. If you are an accountant in a bigger business, and I did, like a lot of the problems that I saw there that people were clicking on were probably internal accountants having to manage huge amounts of approvals and bills and etc. Everything we're talking about here 100% will translate into your world. So don't be too afraid or don't drop off. But at what we do, what I try to focus on whenever I go into an accounting firm is not to just isolate any particular issue. It's all about the whole bookkeeping process and look to improve everything before you try to approve anything. And the big thing for me, it sort of starts with sort of team structure. How are you leveraging, just like in your accounting practice where you've got juniors doing most of the work and then it passes up and is approved up the chain? Bookkeeping should be no different, and it can be, particularly when you start using offshoring team members and etc. Number two, the big thing I look at is the tech stack. It's not just the single approval piece, and if it's zero, it's the full tech stack. Your Google business, a Microsoft business, how does that flow? How does that impact your workflows and task management, etc.? Number three is the core one, where it's workflows, task management, and how do you resource? How do you know when you're busy? How do you know that you're not overloading your staff and creating risks of missing a payroll or missing super payments or something? And then number four is go through the key processes. I mean, they're all pretty standard for everyone, so I won't go through them, but the key one we'll be focusing on today is this accounts payable processing and approval. So that's really our sort of laser focus on today, on how to improve that in a bookkeeping division, or like I said before, in an internal finance team where you're suffering pretty much exactly the same problems. It's actually really quite common, the two problems that you face. So yeah, it's probably it on that side. Alex, anything else you want there?
All right. And what would be the solution for that? So that would be next topic.
Yeah. So I think like stepping back, what do we sort of, from an accounts payable point of view, if we look at the problem and what it is, right? If you've got a bookkeeping firm or a big business, you can have anywhere from, a bookkeeping firm can have anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 to 3,000, 4,000 bills a month it's processing. Which is an extreme amount. That's an enterprise level business. There's listed entities with less than that. And if you think about how a big business like that fixes the problem, it's with very similar products to this. And that's what we're trying to solve here. So it's large volume of bills. The one thing that is very specific to an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm is actually the number of approvers. So you've got clients, you've got internal teams. So the actual user numbers is quite significant. So the most valuable thing that you can do when you implement this type of software is make sure it's easy to use. And the software that we're talking about today is easy to use. It's built really simply and really easily. The UX is fantastic. So I think that's a real big advantage of these pieces of software versus an enterprise level type of software, if any of you have ever used them. So at the core, the real focus for us is, if you've got to build a process, number one thing is to get it somewhere. And where that is, Nattika will talk about that in a second, but from my point of view is make it consistent. Don't try to get things coming to you with multiple different places. Don't let the client come in with the shoebox and also send emails. Try to get it in one location, one process. Once you've centralized it, you've got it, the key is to get it out of that place as quick as possible into the processing section. Don't wait. Don't wait till tomorrow, do it today. Get a process to build it, to get it out of that centralized location, to get it in to the processing, which is Dext for this process. Get it into Dext, get it coded, set your supplier rules, and make sure there's some continuity there. Once you've processed something, get it into ApprovalMax and get it approved by the right people. I think a lot of accountants and bookkeepers take this unnecessary risk and approach to their job where they think that they're doing it. It's their finance function. They're approving the bills. It's just not. It's not your responsibility, in my opinion. It's not your responsibility to know where every little thing goes in a client's P&L when it's coded, if it's real or not. So getting things approved and getting things approved by the right people, that could be multiple people in the client. That could only be one person in the client. It doesn't really matter as long as there's some external review. If you've got a client that is pushing back on you on that, that's fine. But ultimately, you just need to get them approving it. And then the next step is once it's processed quickly, number one, and that's what Dext does, and Dext does really well, processes quickly and accurately. Then it gets into ApprovalMax, and ApprovalMax does this really well as well. It gets it approved really quickly, and it's super easy to use. Once those things all happen, you flow it into Xero. Once it's in Xero, you can report on it. And there's a whole section that I'll talk on that advisory around reporting and etc. as well, which I won't sort of ramble on now about, but because I've got a whole section too. But I think that's the process. So centralize it, process it, approve it, and report it. And time is of the essence. Get it in, get it done as quick as possible.
It all sounds like a magic. But let's dive in a little bit more into each and every piece of here. And Nattika, perhaps if you could talk a bit more about centralizing the function, how you can do that with Dext and what is the best approach for that.
Yeah, sure. It absolutely is magic though, Alex, because in a past life when I was working for a firm, I implemented the exact process that Trent had up on the screen before, and it is magic when it works really, really well. So I think having been an accountant in a large commercial company before, much like Trent as well, and now in a firm, and then obviously now on the other side, what I find is that we do have to have these consistencies in how we approach, how we implement this software in our workflows as well. So centralizing it, you might run that bookkeeping function in an accounting firm, or it might be you might have multiple entities that you're looking after in a larger company as well. But having that centralized place where all of the documents, like Trent said, come into and create some consistency is really, really number one. So some things that I took away from obviously being in both kind of industries is you're going to stop the fatigue if you have one place for everything to come into. So exactly like Trent mentioned, don't have your clients bring you the shoebox and then send you an email into your email box. Make sure that they're using that one place, or you're using that one place to receive all of the invoices. We did it the same when I was working for an ASX listed company as well. You speak to your suppliers and you ask them to email into this one central spot. So that stops the fatigue of the team having to chase, whether you are in a bigger business or whether you are in an accounting firm running that bookkeeping function. I think I touched on that second point there, reducing that internal forwarding of invoices. Get out of the habit of having all of the information come into your inbox and then sending it through to something like Dext. So Dext has this amazing functionality. We have many different submission methods, and one of those is having the ability to email in those invoices straight to the particular box within Dext. So working with obviously the dashboard within Dext, you're able to then navigate where those invoices are submitted into, which again reduces that internal back and forward between clients, between suppliers, between clients and suppliers, and ultimately yourselves, obviously, as accountants within firms or in businesses. it says like investing the energy to do it. And I will admit it's energy up front. But if you get your suppliers right, like you're talking to your suppliers, you get them emailing it into one central place, you're then coding those suppliers consistently as well. So like Trent mentioned as well, if you get your supplier rules right, you turn on your auto publishing, your auto categorization starts to become in play, you are in turn going to centralize everything, but you're also going to create some really great efficiencies out the back end of that too. So touches on having that one single process and no workarounds. It obviously reduces the surprises, and from an audit perspective as well, you have that exact same workflow happening consistently across your team, across the business. So you know that if you're being audited, whether that's ATO or big auditors, you can actually tell them the process that you've got in play, and it is what happens within the business. And of course, it just changes the conversation, right? Having one place to have everything come into, you've got your supplier rules set up consistently, you've got your team reducing the need to go out and chase as well. But it just absolutely allows you to have, I guess, a wider touch with your clients, but an easier touch as well for them to get all of the information into you in that first place. The same with big business as well. You might have many stakeholders. Now they know that it's one place to actually have their information, and they trust that the information is going to get processed in a timely manner too.
All right, so now we've got it all under one hood. Then I believe the next process for that would be to process the whole thing. Once we have all of these bills, all of these invoices, how would we process them? So I believe, Nattika, I will leave it to you to explain a bit more about that.
So this is obviously where Dext definitely comes in. We've done some research, and 42% of the bookkeepers that we speak to believe that 2 hours or more a day can be spent, they're currently spending on manual tasks, can be spent elsewhere. So I guess this is where we start to process the data, and I've touched on this, and Trent's already touched on a few of these points. Start to have the reduction of data entry come into play, and relying on the OCR technology that Dext does provide. We do process many fields, so you're able to obviously submit your financial documents. If you've got your auto categorization rules turned on, we're going to extract that data, and then obviously you're relying on the OCR technology to capture as many of the fields as possible. Your team's not relying on their knowledge, I guess, or their need to check their supplier listing all of the time as well. And they're relying on the technology to actually do the work for them. So I touched on it on the prior slide, but really investing the time to set that up is going to allow for Dext to actually work the best for you as well. So we've got things like the auto categorization that I touch on, the auto publishing as well, which means that, in some instances, say a Telstra bill, you may not even need for anybody to go in and make any changes to the financial documents. It might go straight through to ApprovalMax to the right approvers to get approved. So it is really about leveraging the processing technology that we have in play in this workflow to then obviously allow you to spend those different hours elsewhere. And one last point would be to process the invoices daily from that central inbox as well. So whether you are in a big business, so my team used to process obviously the invoices daily, but also get into the habit of being consistent with the approach when you are part of that bookkeeping function as well, because it allows for real-time reporting, real-time approvals as well, and you're not holding any of that process up, because like Trent said, there's many people that touch these invoices, particularly if you're working in maybe a non-for-profit as well. You're going to have many different approvers along that path, and particularly if you're in a firm and you have them as your client, you're going to have a number of more approvers in that workflow as well. So yeah.
Seemed Trent left us. I hope he'll come back. He'll come back very, very soon. Like, all right, I'm done here. All is automated now. Well, actually, since I'm doing all of these live demos on a daily basis and showing the way Dext works with ApprovalMax, this topic, when you need to invest time in setting up it right, it actually takes just a couple of minutes, because all of that is just 2 clicks away. When you just see what's going on, you just click on set the rules, you decide which supplier should go where, and it takes a couple of minutes to make the whole process working. Once it's done, everything is just working as magic. It's automatically being auto-populated, automatically published. You didn't even need to do anything. You were like all right, so now I can just enjoy my coffee or something. Everything will be working just fine. And once we've centralized everything and once we've processed the whole thing, now we need to make it so for approvals. And that's where ApprovalMax steps into the game. And as Trent already mentioned, one thing that a lot of accountants out there is trying to make is to sort of do the whole work just by themselves. And it's probably not the greatest thing at all, because sharing responsibility with the actual customer or with your client or with your team, it makes it much easier for both them and you to understand what are the processes. Because if you are someone who is purchasing things in your company, you probably would like to see if you actually received it, if you're actually going to approve it, and then you'll have just a single source of truth that you received your materials, your supplier invoice, you've got understanding of what you actually received, you see all the correct numbers, you compare that against the budgets within your zero budget manager, so you know exactly what is going on and what is the health of your organization. And once your team members will make their approvals within the whole chain of everyone with different authorization policies, then you will know that this decision was made by the relevant people, and now you can make your payment to the supplier, not on the last day when you need already to send this payment, but actually throughout the process, because everything will be coming to you at the point of time when someone will make the decision. There is no need for you to chase your approvers on a later stages on the day for your payment. Everything will be over streamlined. Just like we have on the diagram here, it's one of our partners. Before they've implemented the ApprovalMax, the process was really broken because they were receiving an invoice. Some client were looking what's going on and just sending that to this partner. They don't really understand what is going on, who made the decision. They would need to go back in emails and see threads if someone made the decision or if they've just accidentally sent this invoice for payment. There is no real indication of how we can trace that back. Once they've implemented streamline process, when they have several levels of authorities and different people are approving on behalf of their own very specific task, let's say on the GL code level or maybe on the supplier level. So once we receive all of this information, a partner will straight away understand that that particular supplier invoice was approved by that particular team member from our team. Sorry. And then you just simply straight away see within a couple of minutes and couple of hours that all the invoices within your queue are processed, approved, and sent for payment. Now you can just do the last piece of this work. So now once we've processed everything, now once we've approved all the documents, and once we see that the data was compared against the budgets and so on, we have much more clear data, something that we can actually utilize later on to make our forecasts and the reporting side of it. And here I would like to hand it over back to Trent to talk about the reporting side of the whole process, the whole last piece of it.
Yeah, so I think the reporting side's very much focused on, going through. It's not so much about how to do the reporting. It's more about, those accountants that do offer the advisory service, which is quite a substantial amount these days. But it's about how to get the most out of those advisory sessions. I used to do advisory in a different life, and the amount of conversations I had about where a $20 expense went into the wrong GL account, and you're opening up Xero files or old MILD files, and you're tracing where a transaction has gone, and an hour and a half has sort of dwindled and you've gotten nowhere with the client. And then you just get into this repeated function of more providing, accuracy of accounts and financials rather than actually adding any value to your client, which ultimately means in a lost client at some point. It's just how it works. So I think this process, in particularly involving the client, it gets them across their books. So when you do get to that advisory session, whether you're doing your reporting through a Fathom, a Spotlight, a Xero, or another tool, or Excel, even Google Sheets, you can get some pretty good reports out of with linking. It's about getting the most out of those sessions, and you will get the most out of a client that is engaged with their finances before you walk in that door. And I think that's really the most important piece. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. That's the real overarching piece. There's also some really cool functionality in ApprovalMax, which I don't see a lot of people taking up. It's in their advanced plan, I think it is, Alex. I might be wrong there, but budget tracking. Budget tracking is huge, right? Like if you've got multiple suppliers in one of your clients, multiple approvers in one of your clients, and they're approving, you can have automated budget approvals, which is like side by side, just sits there. It's really great UX. Like it is side by side, and as you approve, it consumes. And you can do something about it right there and then, rather than having to wait 14 days post end of month to have your meeting, work out your over budget you've already spent. So, these sort of additional functionality in ApprovalMax, which it provides, is really valuable in that advisory session or that reporting session.
I couldn't say that better. It is actually under advanced plan, and I would highly encourage
Cool,
you to
yeah.
give it,
I was
give it a
right.
try.
Yeah. I know you've got 3 plans. I always mix them up. But
I know
yeah.
it's might sometimes might be confusing.
Yeah. And it is actually really good. Like it's that budget tracking stuff is quite phenomenal. It's not many people use it because it's a little bit more tricky to set up. But when you get it purring and you explain to people what it is and how it's coming through, it's really valuable.
It is. Thank you very much. All right, so now we've covered all these pieces. Now we're coming to the last part, which is the questions and answers. I see that was already a few questions in the Q&A section. Some of them were already answered. Let me see. I think this one question is for you, Nattika. Our GL accounts for one supplier can vary. For instance, fuel could be for vehicle, training, patient transport, meeting costs, and etc. So how would the rules for suppliers be set up?
That is a really good question. It's a little bit harder in Dext just because we do that one-to-one kind of auto categorization. But Yvonne, there is a possible workaround with the split that I may reach out to you and show you as well. So there is the capability to obviously split some line items and have that sitting there. So it may be that you leverage off the different general ledger coding when you are sending it through. So we can definitely have a little look at that.
Awesome. Let's see if we have anything else. We have a supplier that sends large invoices on a monthly basis. Would you please advise how this could be processed through as one bill? It has ApprovalMax orders, approximately 30 each month, manual orders, approved 10 each month, items that do not need orders, and discount on only certain items. The ApprovalMax order does not always agree with what has been invoices. That's the very good question. There is so many inside one question that it's hard to explain straight away with just one simple answer. Perhaps if you could write an email to our support team. I see that Sivar already been answering you because we'll need to dig into that a bit more. Perhaps if we could jump on a one-on-one meeting just to make sure that we're on the same page on what you're trying to achieve. So I just won't give you some bad answer here. I think that will be the best approach. Any additional questions? Yes, I see. Holly's asking, is it possible to allocate auto-publish or auto-archive to certain suppliers only? We can only find a all or none. Want to auto-archive stock invoices, but be able to publish non-stock items. I think that's a question for you, Nattika.
Yeah, yes, there is. We can auto-publish just based on one supplier as well. So I'm definitely able to push that through for particular suppliers because all of the logic is based on the supplier level.
The other one is in setting up Dext. Can we upload GL account codes from zero so that we have the same GL codes? That's
Yeah. So we actually use the integration through into Xero. So when you are setting up your account within Dext, you'll integrate with your Xero ledger and it will pull those GL codes through. So it will use the GL code so you don't have to upload both. It will read your Xero file for the GL codes there.
I'm also interested to learn more about the split functionality. same supplier, different GL codes and Dext.
Fantastic. It is a bit of a workaround. I will admit it's something that's formulating in my brain. It's not a set in stone, but I can reach out and we can have a small session on that.
Perhaps we should make a joint webinar already on how to do all of those tips and tricks on how to use Dext and ApprovalMax.
Definitely.
Okay. While questions are falling in, let me first show some of them. What do we have here as things that you want to give it a try? It's first of all, well, on a Dext and ApprovalMax site, everything is simple. We have our free trials, and I would highly encourage you to give it a try already today from our website, dext.com or ApprovalMax.com. Play around with both products and see the way it works in integration, both to Xero and any other accounting platforms, and just to see how easy is that to utilize these tools into your day-to-day business. But at the same time, if you would like to learn a bit more on how to improve your bookkeeping division and how to redesign that and how to implement some of these additional apps, there is a QR code which will lead you to Trent's Calendly, and you can book a session just to take a look on your already current process and understand how we can make it much more effective, how we can upgrade that, how we can add some additional tools, and so on and so on. So feel free to scan the code and submit it for a one-on-one meeting. And I see that a few more questions just came in. With posting through Dext and ApprovalMax, can we set up invoices that need approval with no PO and invoices that can be posted that need no approval? Yes, you can actually. First of all, it's not mandatory to have a purchase order. You can set it up to be mandatory, but overall, you can just publish your bills over to ApprovalMax without any POs created and no PO matching. Later on, if you'll need that, you can always add that piece of thing. But in general, you can do it this way. Same goes for auto approvals. We have a specific auto approval step where you can define that maybe that particular supplier with that particular amount and that particular GL code should be automatically approved. So then it will be flowing through from Dext into ApprovalMax and into Xero automatically without anyone needing to approve that. I think I've answered this question. In terms of pricing, how it is. I'm looking for a software to handle my multiple clients. I work with a bookkeeper. Right now, we are trialing with Lightyear and Easy Bills. They seems to be pretty affordable, around $500 a year. How about Dext and ApprovalMax? Thanks. That's a good question. Well, I see that Sivar already answered that our sales team will come back to you to discuss that directly because we need to see all these additional things. Though, just to give you a bit of idea of the way ApprovalMax works, like in terms of pricing. The pricing is a flat fee, purely depends on the amount of organizations. There is several plans, standard, advanced, and premium plan. The standard will cost you, if we were coming to Australian dollars, it's going to be 59 Australian dollars. I'm always confused with all the different currencies. I believe it's 59 Australian dollars for the standard plan, 95 for advanced, and 133 for the premium plan. No limitation on the amount of users, no limitation on the amount of requests that you can process. You can do as much as you want. It purely depends on the different features that you need in your approval process. So feel free to take a look at approvalmax.com/pricing, play around with the calculator, or simply our sales team will come back to you and talk to you about your particular case.
I think there's another question. There's another question just about multiple GL codes and coding in Dext.
Would you also have the feature of coding? You mean the ones? Would you also have the feature of coding various lines to various GL codes in Xero? Thanks.
Yep, within the Dext platform, you can split all of your invoices to many different general ledger codes so that it does pass through to ApprovalMax with those general ledger codes and obviously go through to Xero. So yeah, you can.
And that's fully automated, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
You can.
It's not,
yeah, if you apply a rule, you can have it fully automated. Yeah.
Is it monthly or annually? Thanks. I believe that's the question for the pricing. The one that I've told you, it's monthly, but you can also have annual pricing. It's 17% less than you have with the monthly. So you have a discount. Also, we have volume discounts. We have non-for-profit discounts. So a lot of things included. Feel free to drop a line to us. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for your great questions. It seems like we don't have any more unanswered. So with that being said, first of all, let me say thank you for joining today's webinar. I hope you'll find some great insights, and I hope you'll bring some of these insights to your bookkeeping team, and you'll make some of the efforts to change the process the way it works right now. I see we just received a new question. Does Dext ApprovalMax have the capability of checking line items prices? Against what? So the way it will work, we just once, I mean, I believe that's mainly for the Dext side, because if you have a PDF document, it's just reading the line items and it just takes the price against the line item. Right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of my take on that. I mean, it depends on what we're checking the line items, exactly what Alex said, depending what you're wanting to really check those line item against. So yeah, I'll leave that one open-ended.
The prices may change from the original order amount. Well, with that, it's really hard to check that against what you had, because you need to have some kind of connection in between. What you can do is, like, once if you raise the purchase order and then you receive the bill from your supplier and you match that against the PO, it will show you what is your balance between the PO, between the original PO, and between your bill. Then later on, if you want, you can match more and more additional bills in case you receive just partially. So that is possible. But that will be on the document level as a whole. If we create a purchase order in ApprovalMax and at the same time we send the invoice from Dext to ApprovalMax for approval, what will happen with the invoice? Will it match with the PO created in AM? If you want to, you have a special button called Match with PO. Then you can select which purchase order you would like to match against the bill. So it won't be done automatically. We still want to make sure that the person who is approving the bill, who is approving the purchase order, will see the original document and make sure that that is the correct one, and they can allocate certain amounts from the bill to the purchase order. So that will be done by the person. But overall, as an answer, you can raise your PO within ApprovalMax right now and straight away receive an invoice from your supplier in Dext, and then you'll be able to do the matching, no problem at all. That is what we do, but when we get the last invoice, the amount is over the order amount, and this makes it difficult for checking. There is actually a setting in the bill approval workflow where you can select that if amount of a bill is higher than the amount of the purchase order, what should we do? If there is a difference in a couple of percent, you can decide it on this way, or numeric value, or you can make it that you won't be able to approve such bill if it's higher than the amount of the PO. So then you can either create an additional PO just to have a zero balance between PO and the bill zero, or you can then reject this bill and send it back to the supplier, or maybe make some adjustments. So that's the way it will work. Okay, it seems like we answered all of the questions. Thank you very much once again. Have a lovely rest of the day, and bye-bye. You'll receive the link to the recording, you'll see the presentation, and feel free to drop a line if you'll need any additional assistance from our side. Thank you. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.